Layoffs and the end of homeschooling. That's this morning's topic, folks. Welcome to Prepper Nation. I am John. Thank you very much for hitting subscribe. For those of you that are brand new, don't be afraid. Click the subscribe button. I hear that it changes colors, though I cannot confirm nor deny. So let's get into it this morning. Public education has, shall we say, several problems. I think this is pretty common knowledge, right? Public education is not what it was intended to be. It is jacked up at this point, but they have several glaring problems. This is going to come from CBS News. But after I read this report, I started doing a lot of digging on my own. I got a lot of numbers to drop this morning, so please bear with me. Again, several problems. The first is they currently have 55,000 vacant jobs. This is nationwide, okay? Public education, this is everything from custodians to support staff to cafeteria workers to teachers. I don't know if this includes, your substitute teachers or not, but I suspect that it does. Now, you would think with 55,000 vacant jobs, it would be easy to get hired, right? If you have a teaching degree or you meet the criteria. However, that's not the case. Occasionally, there will be a school system they're hiring like crazy, but most of them have taken the now hiring signs down. In fact, out of the 13,000 school districts nationwide, it is estimated that we are on the brink of half of those, laying off. A lot of them are about to experience layoffs because they just don't have the funding. A lot of them have been using COVID relief funding and stuff like this to hire additional staff. A lot of temporary jobs school systems are getting ready to lay off, even though there are 55,000 empty jobs already. So why is this? And what does this have to do with homeschooling? So let's get into that. So this is actually the number that I saw, and I said, I got to dig around on this. Because if this is accurate, which it was from CBS News, in case you're interested, I said, this doesn't make sense. Okay. So from 1970 to 2024, there's been a 50% decline, 50% drop in the number of people that are going to college to get teaching degrees, bachelor degrees in teaching and, getting certified and all this stuff. So you say, but John, that's since 1970. That's a long time ago. Of course, there's going to be a lot of fluctuation with the numbers. Here's why it really didn't make sense at first to me. 1970, this nation's population was 203 million people, roughly. Today, it's 341 million people. So we've grown big time in terms of population. And so the number of people that are trying to get teaching degrees should be going up, 30, 40%, maybe even 50%. But again, it's declined by half. People just are not interested anymore. And, CBS ran this poll asking a lot of, college students and teachers, because of what's happening is, according to them, and I tend to agree with this, a lot of they call them baby boomer teachers, people that have been teaching for decades, they're retiring, okay? And there are not enough people coming in to fill those blanks, to fill those jobs up. And they're just not interested. A lot of people are leaving teaching altogether, younger folks who are not retiring, but they're just tired of working a second job. Some of them are delivering food, or they're Uber drivers, or again, they're bartending on the weekends or whatever, because teaching just doesn't pay. That was the number one reason they're leaving. Number two reason was it's not safe. A lot of them are looking at it and they're like, it shouldn't be the way that it is. but it's just not safe. We don't know what's going to happen day to day. Number 3 reason was they feel like social workers and not actual teachers. We're not doing a whole lot of teaching. It's more of a free for all. One lady that was polled literally said it's survival of the fittest. She said, I have 39 kids in my classroom. How can I possibly teach? It's survival of the fittest. It's, indoctrination, as many of you know out there. But it's just not working out. But the number 4 reason brings us to homeschooling. There's been a serious drop in enrollment across the United States of America, which again, on the surface doesn't make sense because we went, 1970 to now, 203 million. We grew to 341 million. Should have a lot more kids that are needing to go to school. We do have a lot more kids. They're just not going to public school. Over the last 10 years, there's been a 4% drop in enrollment. Shouldn't be dropping, it should be going up, right? 2 major factors for this. Private school enrollments are way up, and homeschooling is way, way up. Right now, currently, there are 3.7 million kids homeschooling. It used to be an anomaly, right? And homeschooling may actually be the way to go. I've heard y'all say that before, and I get it. Your kids are safer. They're not being indoctrinated as much. But again, it used to be one of those deals where you either knew one person that was homeschooling or you knew somebody that was homeschooling. But now it's like a lot of people are doing it. Over the last 5 years, homeschooling has grown 10% here in the United States of America. Parents are looking at the situation. They're saying, my kids aren't safe in public schools, right? Or my kids aren't learning in public schools because, again, classroom sizes. In a lot of cases, because school systems needed teachers so bad, they dropped the criteria. A lot of times now there aren't these final exams. You have a bachelor's degree in gender studies, you're qualified somehow to be a science teacher or to be a mathematics teacher. So it just doesn't make sense. And then you have the government constantly coming in, constantly playing the part of social worker. A lot of stuff, I would argue, this is opinion on my part, a lot of stuff that parents should be doing at home, should be teaching their kids at home about life. It's just not being taught at home because we have a lot of kids being raised by grandparents and guardians and stuff. And so the schools are stepping in and they're trying to play parent, social worker, and teach if there's any time left over. So what they're saying, and of course it's CBS, they're going to spin it this way. They're saying this is actually affecting low-income communities like inner cities and things, and mostly Spanish-speaking communities. The way they worded it was English as a second language community. I'm pretty sure that means Spanish-speaking, unless we got a lot of German communities across the nation here, right? So they're saying that those folks, of course, are the victims here. Because if you're homeschooling, basically they're projecting and they're saying because you are choosing to homeschool, people in inner cities are suffering, or Spanish speaking people, they are suffering because they cannot find or afford teachers in their area. A lot of inner cities, these are the ones that are going to have to lay off because they do not have the funding. The funding is just not available. If you're in an inner city and the neighborhoods around you are poor, there's not a lot of tax revenue coming in. So you're directly tied to whatever funding you can get from the U.S. government or your state in order to hire teachers. And you really have to start thinking about the U.S. government. I know, y'all are fans of the U.S. government. Govern me harder, daddy, right? But here's the thing. How will the government respond? because this is a problem that they're going to have to address, right? If it was something else like a border wall, they're not going to address that. They can just close their eyes and pretend it's not happening, or homelessness. But we know, again, these are indoctrination centers. This is part of the plan to transform the heart of the United States from capitalist to communist, in my opinion. Okay, so they need these centers open and running nonstop, and they need butts in seats, if you will. So, they have piloted several different programs. Tennessee and Georgia, two of the states that are facing the most severe shortages, okay? They're piloting programs right now where you can go to college for free to become a teacher. You can get, they pay for your exam fees and everything. If you sign a 4-year commitment with the state, at least that's the way it is in Georgia. Tennessee, it may be 3 years, 5 years, but you get the gist. You sign on for 4 years after the fact. You promise to teach in downtown Atlanta, okay? And we'll put your butt through school for free. Of course, nothing's free. It's taxpayer funded, but a lot of people don't know that that's going on. The government is sending out additional funding. They can't say COVID relief funds anymore because, hey, the pandemic's done, son. They can't do that. So they got to, take the eraser, erase that headline off, and they got to name it something else. But this is still money. Some of the complaints that I've heard from teachers unions are, if we have money to send Ukraine and we have money to send Israel, we need to send some of this money to teachers. Well, herein lies the problem. Not to get too sidetracked here, but we don't have the money to send to Ukraine. We don't have the money to send to Israel. This is why all of the outrage on the far right, because we don't have the freaking money. This is not an endless money pot that you just keep sticking your hands in like AOC seems to think it is. Joe Biden and his administration has proposed a $20,000 a year pay raise for teachers nationally, all across the board here. And here's the problem. None of this is helping. All right. Going to college to teach for free, additional funding for school systems, dressed up in a different title beyond COVID funding, $20,000 a year pay bump, teachers nationally. And nobody's interested. People still are not biting. There was even one pilot program where they said, we're going to take substitute teachers that have high school degrees. We're going to let them substitute teach in classrooms for a while. And if they do good for like 6 months, we'll certify them, and then we'll start paying them like teachers and treating them like teachers. And the issue was, this is like a multi-million-dollar pilot program. Then they realized, there are no substitute teachers. We don't have any warm bodies to put in that classroom. So what do we know about the government? Right? Many, many things, right? That's a trick question, actually, son. We know that the government likes to mandate and regulate people into compliance. Think about it. The farming sector. They don't want you eating certain things, especially poultry and meats and things. People resist that. They still want to eat it. People like their chicken, their fried chicken. They like a good steak, so the government steps in and they slap meat farmers, with regulations and mandates, and they price them out. Basically, this jacks up the price on everything, and now people are buying less poultry and steak and beef and pork and stuff. Gasoline engines, they want to do away with them. They want everybody to adopt the EV mindset. A lot of holdouts, not working out like they thought it would. So the government has stepped in and they have mandated a lot of things that are going to force people, I think, into EVs, like it or not. Health decisions. We just dealt with this a few years ago. Regulations and mandates and pigeonholing people into not having a choice, or at least feeling like they don't have a choice. This is how the government operates. Do you really believe they're going to allow homeschooling to continue at its current rate? It's not going to be very long, folks. Not going to be very long. They're not going to. I don't think, this is personal opinion, let me know what you think, but I don't believe the government is going to sit around and watch half of the school systems nationally start laying off. Because again, they need these indoctrination centers to reach our children. I don't think they're going to allow that. Rather than allow that, I think they're going to begin to push regulations and mandates when it comes to homeschooling. They're going to make it so impossible, so unaffordable that a lot of people cannot do it anymore, and they're going to be forced back in to the public education sector. And when that happens, there's going to be a great need for teachers again, and I use that term lightly in many cases. And then they can get on with the hustle. But y'all let me know what you think in the comments, please. This afternoon, oh boy, New York City. What are they doing in New York City now, son? I saw this. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't help but to laugh. And I got to mark it off the bingo card this afternoon. So join me for that. Be sure you're subscribed here at Prepper Nation. Y'all take care and God bless.